I'd like to apologize to you, the beloved Sat Sangat, and to Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, because primarily this session is going to be conducted in English, and the reason it's conducted in English is because it's focused, it's directed, it's aimed at the younger generations of the Sat Sangat, who perhaps don't have a good grasp of Punjabi or don't understand Punjabi all that well, and whose only exposure to the path, to the light, to the theology, the philosophy, the history, the culture of the path, the Sachti Marg of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj is in this next hour. Now, Punjabi is very, very important, no doubt. It's the root of our culture, it's the root of our religion. Gurmukhi, without that, is very difficult to progress at all on this path. But the aim of this session is just to give them a bit of exposure into this path. There's no way that 1 hour sessions can ever change anyone. They're just there to provide the seeds, to be planted, to then be grown through your own efforts, through your own reading, your own research, for you to build your relationship between you and Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, you and Akal Purkh. There's no middleman in this path. So, today what I want to do is talk about an event that happened over 337 years ago. An act was conducted that was so important, that was so huge, that was so full of love and compassion, that the whole world itself shook. Not only the world, but the skies and the heavens shook as well. Such was the act. And it was one of pure compassion, of pure love, that no human being could ever do this act. There's no person on this world who's ever done an act like this, and there's no person who will ever do an act like this. Only Akal Purkh, only in the form of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj could this act be done. And this is one that we've remembered over the last couple of weeks, so the talk is a bit old, but it's about the Shahidi Purb of Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj, who is affectionately known as the Hind Di Chadar. Now, in Shri Dasam Granth Sahib Ji, Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj writes, Tilak Janru Rakha Prabh Thaka Kino Pado Kalo Me Sakha. It's a very, very important pankti from Shri Dasam Granth Sahib Ji, because it gives us an understanding into what actually happened. Why did Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj have to sacrifice himself? A lot of historians, a lot of people will try and say that Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji gave his life for the Hindu Dharam, for the tilak, the sandalwood paste that's applied on the heads of the Brahmins, the janu, the cotton wool string that's tied by the Brahmins. But nothing could be further from the truth. The answer as to why Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji gave his Shahidi lies in between that. Yes, if it wasn't for Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj, there would not be a single Hindu walking on this earth. Over 1.2 billion people owe their lives today to the acts of Tan Tan Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj. So Guru Sahib didn't care about the physical representations of the Hindu Dharam, the tilak, the janu. No. Because remember, Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj rejected all of these things at a very, very young age, rejected this path. There's only one true path in this world, and that's the path of Gurmat, the path of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. But look at the compassion of Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj, who gives his life up selflessly for a religion, for a philosophy, for a way of life that he doesn't agree with. Who else could do such an act but Akal Purkh himself? Now, to understand a bit more about this, it's important we realize what the social circumstances are at the time, what was going on at the time, what the religious leaders, what the government officials had in mind at the time. There was a king by the name of Aurangzeb. whose father was Shah Jahan, who came to the Takht of Delhi, who took the Takht of Delhi. It was not meant for him. He was hated by his father because of his views, of the way he conducted his life. If we look at how he conducted his life, it gives us a bit of an insight into why he lived, why certain policies were implemented at the time. Aurangzeb was responsible for killing 3 of his own brothers. He killed his son, who was 36 years old, because he feared that he was going to take over the kingdom. Such was his lust for power, greed for power. He killed his own sister. He even imprisoned his father, Shah Jahan, and tortured him mentally. Aurangzeb originally grew up in Gujarat and was a governor over there, but such were his acts, such was his depravity, that he subjected the people of Gujarat to untold tortures and began destroying temples, began torturing them, all in the name of Islam, all in the name of religion. And history says that Aurangzeb was a religious person, in the fact that he never drank, he said the 5 prayers that Muslims are meant to do, and he believed very strongly in Sharia law. But in truth, he was not a religious person because there was no love for Akal Purkh. There was no meaningful relationship between himself and Akal Purkh. It was all a ritual. And in this way, he managed to convince a lot of the fundamental Muslims at the time that he was right, everyone else was an infidel. This is the Taj Mahal. Everyone who goes to India knows about this. All the Westerners talk about this place. This is the tomb of Aurangzeb's mother, Mumtaz Mahal. And when he imprisoned his father, he didn't even let his father have a look at this tomb. He kept him in solitary confinement, and he didn't let him have a sort of window to look at the outside world. Such was the way that he tortured his own blood, his own family. Now, before we go into how Aurangzeb decided to destroy the Hindu Dharam, how he decided to destroy a whole religion, it's very important that we look at how one can destroy a nation, because some of these things are affecting our nation today. Some of these things are affecting us in this country today. Now, there was a Prussian general who was born in 1780 by the name of Karl von Clausewitz. And he was involved in a lot of different wars at the time, and he wrote a very famous book, which is originally in German, and it's called On War. And he described how there are 2 ways to destroy a nation. One, you can lead a military conquest. You can take armies, you can take tanks, you can take horses, you can take swords, and you can destroy people that way. But he said, another way you can do this is by orchestrating the destruction of society from within. And what he referred to is that for people to grow, for people to mature, there are different centers that they need to attend. They need to go to school, they need to go to university, they need to have jobs, they need to have a house, they need to have all these different things, all these things that we have today. And he said, to destroy them, you target these centers of gravity. These different centers, you target them. And how he mentioned you do this is, one, you control the media. Now, fair enough, in 1675, there was no TV or radio, but there were town halls, there were town centers, there were places where people would meet. And armies of Maulvis were sent to try and change the atmosphere, to try and make it that Hindus, Sikhs, other religions were infidels plotting against Islam. Because remember, the media is a very, very powerful instrument. And we're very fortunate to have our own Sikh channels, so we can get our own voice out there. But the media can alter people's thinking very easily. Because remember, when falsehood is portrayed in such a way, when it's bombarded at you, it can create a picture of truth, and you can believe that. I mean, there was a recent study I remember reading about Domino's Pizza, and how they started putting adverts on that, and the sales went a huge amount. No one even thought they were going to have pizza, but it just shows the influence of the media. The next one, very, very important, to control future generations, because all this is aimed at mind control, to destroy your thinking, to destroy your unique way of life, to make you follow a certain path. So to destroy future generations, you target schools. You tell them that natural aggression is wrong, docile submission is right. You tell them to hide away their weapons. Weapons are needed in this day and age. You start destroying their history, their culture, their constitution. You start hiding all these things and saying they didn't exist. And in this way, Aurangzeb got rid of all the schools, all the Hindu schools, all the religious institutions. He did away with them. And what was taught in their place? Mosques were built. Islamic institutions were built to teach their own teachings. The next, to shape the political philosophy, to shape the government, to shape the decisions of the time, you infiltrate the government. So what did Aurangzeb do? He got rid of all the Hindus who were in the government. Anyone who was not a Muslim was not allowed to have a government position. And in this way, you can act with complete impunity. You can do whatever you want and no one will question you, because they all believe in your philosophy. They all believe in your political ideals, your political goals. Next one, very important, get rid of the sense of nationalism. Get rid of the sense of sovereignty, the idea of freedom. We as Sikhs are born free. Guru Nanak Dev Ji freed us from everything. We only answer to Akal Purkh, we only answer to Guru Nanak Dev Ji, to Guru Granth Sahib Ji. That's it. No country, no leader, no one can keep hold of us. In the same way, other people are born free as well. The Hindus at the time, they had lived in that country for a very, very long time. And yet, their culture, their language was being destroyed. It was declared that you couldn't speak any language other than Farsi, other than Persian. So their languages of Sanskrit, of their other languages were all being destroyed. Finally, to put even more pressure, you start changing the economy. You start making things unaffordable for people. You start saying that for road taxes, we're going to charge you double and we're going to charge Muslims half. And in this way, this is how Aurangzeb conducted himself. So he led a dual attack on the Hindu Dharam at the time. One, using the military power. The other, very, very significant, very important way of destroying a nation, of using the government, of using the religious schools, of using the media, of changing the nationalism, getting rid of patriots. So these are some of the things. There are many, many different things that Aurangzeb did, but these are some of the things that were going on at that time. At the bottom it says all temples built over the last 10 years were destroyed. I was reading in a history book that said over 60,000 Hindu temples were destroyed during Aurangzeb's reign. Think about that number, 60,000. That's not 60,000 men or women or children. That's 60,000 religious institutions where people go to pray to God. And think how many people were going over there. Hundreds of people must have been attending each temple. Think about the influence, the effect this was having. I was reading another academic paper which illustrates this point very, very clearly. It focuses on the areas that Aurangzeb targeted. It focused on the areas around India. And if you look at the map, it's not localized to one particular point. It's not localized to the north of India or the south of India. It's localized everywhere. It's the north, the south, the east, the west. Aurangzeb targeted the whole of India to make it fit according to his way of life, to destroy that freedom of thought, to destroy that freedom of religion. And you might be wondering, why am I talking so much about Aurangzeb? Why am I talking so much about what he did? Because very, very important that we understand the Qurbani of Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj, how huge that was. Because India as a nation, as people were suffering, they were being strangled. I'm not sure how many of you have seen these images before, but the one on the right was taken in 1960. It's from Afghanistan. And it's these very big Buddha statues that they had, which are over 2,000 years old. And while reading about the life history of Aurangzeb, I remember reading that even he wanted to destroy these. Hundreds of years before the Taliban eventually took tanks, before they took their anti-aircraft missiles and they destroyed those statues of Buddha. Hundreds of years before. So it gives you an insight into the mentality of Aurangzeb. An insight that you can look to today, to Afghanistan, and see what they were doing to the people, what they were doing to Hindus, Sikhs, any other religion. So finally, after many years of conducting himself like this, after many years of persecuting the innocent, the weak, Aurangzeb finally decided, I'm going to try and destroy them once and for all. And how was he going to do this? He was going to go to the most religious Hindus, the most ardent, the most strict Hindus in Kashmir, and he was going to target them, and he was going to make them become Muslims. Because remember, in Kashmir, they were teaching their religious teachings as well. So he wanted to destroy that. You destroy the religious institutions, no one has any access to knowledge. No one can make that link. And eventually, people forget. People walk on different paths. So in this way, a person called Afghan Khan was sent to Kashmir. And he began to unleash a terror where temples were destroyed, people were killed. Anyone who resisted was hacked to pieces. And in this way, I remember listening to a speech of Sant Gyani Baba Jarnail Singh Ji, who describes this very, very beautifully. He says that the Hindu Pandits of Kashmir, their leader was Kirpa Ram. And after being subjected to so much cruelty, so much torture, they started to go and knock on every single door they could go. They started begging, because remember, they were Rajput warriors, they were Hindu kings at the time, and these Pandits started going and begging at their doors and saying, you are kings, you are warriors, help us, save us. They started going to any Hindu minister, any government official, and they started begging them for help. No help was coming their way. So what they started doing is going to their very religious institutions in Shivling, Madura. They started going everywhere, and they started praying, and they came with such humble hearts. And Sant Jarnail Singh Ji says that they prayed and prayed and prayed, but no answer came. Until one day, they received a divine letter, which is written by Shiva, one of their demigods. And in that letter it said that I have no power. You can pray to me as much as you want. I have no power to affect what's going on over here. There's only one person that does. There's only one door that you can go to, which will answer your prayers. And that door is of Akal Purkh himself. That door is of Satguru, Shri Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj. There is no other door for you. There is no one else who can answer your prayers other than the King of Kings, the Saint of Saints, the ocean of compassion. Every single door was locked apart from the house of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. Which is exactly why Sachkhand Shri Harmandir Sahib still has 4 doors today. Anyone is welcome into the Gurdwara Sahib, no matter what caste they are, what creed they are, what religion they are, what gender they are. We have no discrimination against anyone. In this way, they decided to go to Sachkhand Shri Anandpur Sahib, where Satguru Shri Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj was. Now, before we talk a bit more about Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj, before we talk about their meeting between Kirpa Ram and Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji, it's very important that we understand what sort of Guru that we have. There's a very, very important story from the early life of Baba Tyagmal, which was Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj's original name. This is a heartbreaking picture of a very, very poor boy. When Baba Guru Ditta Ji, the elder brother of Baba Tyagmal, was getting married, Baba Tyagmal was very young, 4 years old, 3 years old. Most of us are older than how how old Baba Tyagmal was then. And he'd been dressed in new clothes. He had a beautiful chola, beautiful dastar had been tied by Mata Nanaki ji, his mother. He had new shoes. And as he was walking along this procession, there were loads of Sangat who had gathered. And like today, some of the Sangat were thinking, oh, such a large crowd has gathered. It's amazing, so many people have gathered over here. Other Sangat were thinking, oh, look how beautiful such and such clothes are, look how beautiful such and such clothes are. All these different thoughts were going through their minds. But Baba Tyagmal was completely focused on Akal Purkh, was completely imbued in the love of Akal Purkh. And as he was walking along the road, he saw a naked little boy who was about his age, just like this picture of this African child. And he saw this child, and he saw that he wasn't wearing any clothes, and he saw that he was shivering. And he was just bones. And Baba Tyagmal went to this child and he said, oh, why haven't you got any clothes? Why haven't your parents got you any clothes? And this little boy turned around and said, it's not my parents' fault. They're very, very poor. It's the way I was born. I was born into a poor household. My parents can't afford to give me food. My parents can't afford to clothe me. And look at what Baba Tyagmal did. Because a lot of the time we see poor people. We don't need to go to Africa or we don't need to go to India to see poor people. They're right on our doorstep in this country sometimes. And some people laugh at these poor people. Some people walk away from these poor people. Some people give a couple of pence, a couple of pounds and think that they're very good. They think that, oh, I'm such a good person that I've given such, so much away. But look at Baba Tyagmal. What he does is he takes off his own chola, he takes off his own shoes and he gives it to the boy. And he says, you look very beautiful in these. You'll be kept very warm in this. And Baba Tyagmal, after blessing this boy, walks back to the procession. And when Mata Nanaki sees him, she asks him, what happened to your clothes? What happened to your shoes? Where have they gone? And Baba Tyagmal, 3 or 4-year-old, says, I saw a very poor boy. I saw him shivering. I saw him in pain. I saw him suffering. I couldn't bear to see this boy suffer. Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj couldn't bear to see one individual suffer, one poor boy suffer. How on earth could Guru Sahib allow humanity to suffer? How could he allow a whole nation, a whole religion to suffer? This is our Satguru. This is our Guru. Now in this way, the Hindu Pandits arrived at Sachkhand Shri Anandpur Sahib. Kirpa Ram looked at Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj. They bowed their heads at the feet of Guru Sahib. And they began to say to Guru Sahib that we have no one else. We're completely alone in this world. We have gone to every single door and it's always come back as no. Because remember, it's a similar case with us. That we go through life with problems. There's no doubt about it. Every single one of us will have some obstacle in our life. And those Gurmukhs, those Gursikhs among us will immediately go towards the Guru. Immediately. And they'll recognize the root, the solution to all our problems lies at the feet of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj.
Why?
But the other people like me, begin to look other places. We begin to go to our friends, our family. We begin to go elsewhere to seek the solution to our problems. In the same way, the Hindus went everywhere. And finally they recognized there was only one place for them. So they came and they said to Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj that you are the son of Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji, the greatest warrior to ever walk on this earth, the warrior Guru. If you don't take hold of our hand today, if you don't help us, if you don't lift us up, there'll never be a single Hindu to walk on this world. We'll be completely finished off. And in this way, they began to tell Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji about stories which come in Gurbani, but their origin lies in some of the Hindu texts. This is a picture taken of an elephant and a crocodile. It comes many times in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, this analogy, this symbolism. And essentially there was an elephant called Rajinder, who was a very, very proud, egotistical elephant. And he would walk around, and he was the king of a herd of elephants. And he was destroying all sorts of plants, all sorts of vegetation, and they got to the lake, and he decided to get in the lake and take a bath. And what happened? A crocodile came and attacked the elephant, attacked this king of the herd, and he began to cry in pain. And he asked his friends, his family, to help him. No one came, because they recognized the danger to themselves. They recognized if we step in the lake, who knows if there might be another crocodile. And they left him alone. This elephant, who thought that everyone cared about him, who thought everyone loved him, was left alone. And he began to try and pull away. He began to try and get free. But he couldn't get free. The crocodile had such a strong hold on him. Until the elephant did something. Until the elephant let go. Until the elephant realized there's only one person to save me. And that's a Kalpurukh. This is one of the panktis that comes in Gurbani. Jab hi saran gahi kirpa ne gaj gara te chuta. That as soon as the elephant recognized that it's a Kalpurukh who's looking after me, as soon as he recognized that there's only one person who's going to save my honor, that's when the honor was saved. No one else was helping him in that time. And the Pandit said it wasn't Krishna Bhagwan, it wasn't Ram who saved you then and there, it was you, Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj, you, a Kalpurukh, who saved the elephant. They told another story, which comes in the Mahabharata, another Hindu text. And they talked about Draupadi. She's written about in Bhai Gurdas Ji's words. The reason I'm using these stories is not because I'm propagating the Hindu faith or anything like that. It's because this is what Kavi Santokh Singh Ji writes in Shri Suraj Prakash. It's a very, very beautiful passage written about the benti that Kirpa Ram did to Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. So Draupadi was taken to a court. She had 5 husbands, who you can see on the right. And she was lost in a game of dice. They bet her on something. And she was taken to this court of this other king. And he tried to remove her clothes. And she held on and held on and held on and began to pray. She began to go to everyone in that darbar and say, save my honor, protect me, look after me. Her 5 husbands ignored her. No one wanted to help her. And she herself was holding on to her clothes. Until finally she put her hands up in the air and said to a Kalpurukh that you need to save my honor. I'm placing all my faith, everything in your hands. And in this way, as soon as the sari, as soon as the cloth was pulled, more cloth came. Eventually, her honor was saved by a Kalpurukh. There are many, many different stories that were narrated at the time. But the key thing is that the Hindu Pandits, Kirpa Ram, recognized all of this was the work of Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, was the work of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. Because although we say Guru Sahib came to this earth physically in 1469, Guru Sahib has been here right since the beginning, and even before that. Because there's no difference between our Guru and a Kalpurukh himself. Never make that mistake of doubting that. And as they were doing this benti, as they said to Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, you are, for us, for the world, you are the Guru, but for us, you are Krishna himself. You are our king, you are our Lord. And as they were doing this, they were crying. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj walked in at that particular time. 9-year-old Guru Gobind Singh Ji walked into the darbar of Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. And he looked at the Pandits and he saw them crying. And he said to Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji that, Pitaji, why are these people crying? Why are these grown men coming over here and crying? What's going on? But remember, Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj are Antarjami, they know everything. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji explained what was happening. He explained all the zulm that was going on, all the bop that was going on. And remember, it's very important that we take note of this. Baba Tyagma, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's original name, was changed by Satguru Shri Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji Maharaj. Why was it changed? It was changed because 14-year-old Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, Baba Tyagma, fought with a Tegh in a huge battle. And he displayed such skill, such amazing valor, that Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji said, "You're not Tyagma. From now on, you're going to be known as the hero of the sword, Tegh Bahadur." Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji was a Shastra Tari. Make no mistake. But Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji told Guru Gobind Singh Ji, there's one solution to these people's problems. We need a very, very holy person. One who is one with a Kalpur to sacrifice themselves to save these people. To cause such bad karmas that the whole Mughal Sarkar will be wiped out. This is what we need. And immediately in that split second, without a single thought, Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, "Who's better than you?" Think about that. Because a lot of the time we hear this story and we don't even think about how huge that was. What amazing Guru that we have. What amazing Father that we have. Because remember, Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj didn't only allow Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj to go and give Shahidi. He sacrificed his mother. He sacrificed his 4 children. He sacrificed Anandpur Sahib, Ponta Sahib. He sacrificed the Vidya Sagar. Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj sacrificed everything. Even his own shoes and his own clothes as he walked through the jungles of Machiwara. What did Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj not give us? He gave us everything. This was only the beginning. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj was very, very pleased, was very happy. The Gurgaddi was bestowed on Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, and Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, from a physical sense, left Sachkhand Shri Anandpur Sahib. He said goodbye for the final time in a physical sense to his mother, Mata Nanki, to his wife, Mata Gujari Ji, to his son, Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, to the Sangat, who had so much pyar, who had so much love for him. And who accompanied Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj as he began to make his way to Delhi. 3 of the most prominent Sikhs at the time, 2 brothers, Bhai Sati Das Ji, Bhai Mati Das Ji, another Sikh, Bhai Dyal Ji, who in the writing of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj is referred to Guru Daput, the son of the Guru. Bhai Dyal Ji was given the responsibility of looking after the family of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. He looked after Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj when he was little, when Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj was travelling around the southern part of India in Bangladesh. Very, very close. These were Mahan Guru Sikhs, were Brahmyanis, and they accompanied Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. And as I already said, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj was a Shastra Tari. Bhai Mati Das, Bhai Sati Das, Bhai Dyal Ji were all Shastra Tari. And they travelled on horseback. And Aurangzeb, hearing this declaration, because remember, now there was a huge battle that was going to go on. On one hand, you have the King of Kings, the Saint of Saints, Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj and 3 Gursikhs. On the other hand, you have the worldly king, Aurangzeb, with all the treasure, all the worldly wealth, all the soldiers in the world. And they were going to collide in Delhi. So, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj was travelling on horseback, full Shastra Tari. Aurangzeb sent over 1,200 troops to arrest Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. And make no mistake that if Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji wanted, in a second he could have destroyed all of them. But he decided that no, we're going to solve the solution another way. And he allowed himself to be arrested in Agra. This wasn't in November. This wasn't just a few weeks before the Shahidi Purab. This was in July, months before. And remember what I said, if Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, Aurangzeb, no one had ever said no to him. Some historians estimate that Aurangzeb had an annual wealth of £40 million in today's money. He had so much maya. No one had ever said no to him. He could just chuck maya at them and they would immediately agree to him. But for the first time in his life, someone was saying no. For the first time. And imagine how happy he would have thought, if I can convert Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, if I can convert one person, the whole of India will become Islamic, will become Muslim. So he was very happy. He didn't recognize what was coming. And what they did is they placed Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj in a very, very small cage. This cage was designed in a certain way that Guru Sahib was only allowed to sit down like that. If he moved to the left, if he moved to the right, if he lifted his head up, there were spikes all over and they'd stab him. Guru Sahib wasn't given water, wasn't given any food, wasn't given anything, and was tortured. The physical. This is what happened to our Guru. And no Sikh can ever bear to see anything happen to our Guru. It's our Jind, our Jaan, our everything. And in this way, Bhai Mati Das Ji, seeing what was happening, began to cry tears of blood. Like we'd all do when we see the disrespect to Satguru Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. Who can bear to see the King of the world, the Saviour of the world, who's come here for a specific purpose to save us, suffer? So what Bhai Mati Das Ji did, because Bhai Mati Das Ji was being tortured as well, make no mistake, but he went to Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's cage. He went to the place where Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji was, and he said to Guru Sahib, that Guruji, give me the power. Give me the Shakti, and I will destroy every single brick in Delhi. Not every house, not every person, every single brick. I'll flatten it out completely if you give me that power. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji smiled at his beloved Sikh. And he said, no, this is the hukum of Akal Purab. This is the way it's meant to be. And Bhai Mati Das Ji bowed to this hukum, but he still felt a lot of pain. So Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji decided to teach him a lesson. And it's a very, very beautiful story of how Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji taught him that lesson. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj told Bhai Mati Das Ji that he wanted some water one day. And Bhai Mati Das Ji was prepared to go to a well which is close by to get the water. But Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji said he didn't want any water from the city. He wanted water from the Yamuna river. He wanted Bhai Mati Das Ji to go over there and collect the water. And as Bhai Mati Das Ji was walking with his bucket of water, as he was walking to the river, thoughts began to go into his head. And he thought, the only reason Satguru is sending me on this path, the only reason he's making me walk all this way, is because he doesn't want me to see my Guru in pain. He doesn't want me to see him not in pain, but he doesn't want me to see his physical body bleeding in pain. So Bhai Mati Das Ji gets the bucket, he fills up with water, he comes running back to Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. He kisses the Charan Kamal of Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj and he says, Maharaj, here's your bucket of water. Now, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji smiles, he blesses Bhai Mati Das Ji and he says, Bhai Mati Das, take this bucket of water and go back to the river and put it back in the river. And this time, Bhai Mati Das Ji was 100% convinced. He was 100% convinced that the only reason Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji was doing this was to keep him away, because it was a very long distance. It was a very long distance to travel. And in this way, Bhai Mati Das Ji ran and ran and ran because he couldn't bear to be away from his Guru. He couldn't bear not to have darshan of his Guru. And he threw the water and he came back. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji looked at him and he said, "What have you learned, Bhai Mati Das?" And Bhai Mati Das Ji says, "What I've learned is that you don't want me to be in your presence. You don't want me to see your physical body enduring this torture." And Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji smiled at his beloved Sikh and he said, "No, Bhai Mati Das Ji, I want to teach you something more important." And Bhai Mati Das Ji said, "What is that, Guru Sahib?" And Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji said, "Bhai Mati Das, when you took the water out of the river, did the river dry up?" And Bhai Mati Das Ji looked and he was like, "How can a river dry up if you take one bucket of water?" And Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji said, "When you put the water back in, did it start overflowing? Did the river come out of its banks?" And Bhai Mati Das Ji again said, "No, it was just a small bucket of water." And Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji then said, "Such is the Guru. The Guru is the samundar, the Guru is the ocean. It'll never run. Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj, this ocean will never ever run dry, no matter how much is taken." Because remember, as Sikhs, we are the rivers. Our Guru is the samundar, our Guru is the ocean. Guru samund nadi sab sikhi nate jit badai. This is the story, this is the lesson, this is the update that Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj gave to Bhai Mati Das Ji. That nothing will ever happen to the Guru, just accept Guru Sahib's hukam, accept the will of Akal Purkh. And in this way, eventually, Bhai Mati Das Ji was brought before Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, was brought before the Red Fort, and an ultimatum was given to Bhai Mati Das, that Bhai Mati Das, you can accept Islam, and with Islam, you'll be given all the treasures in the world. Everything from a worldly perspective, everything you ever wanted will be given to you. You'll be made a king, you'll have your own kingdom, you'll have slaves, you'll have people to do everything you want them to do. Or you can continue to be a Sikh and you can be killed in the most inhumane, the most barbaric way. And Bhai Mati Das Ji started smiling because he said, "There's nothing that you can offer that I want. There's only one thing that I want, and that's the love of my Guru." There was nothing that they could offer Bhai Mati Das Ji. He was completely in love with Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. He was completely in love in this Sachdi Marg, in this Premdi Marg, this path of truth, this path of love. And in this way, a sword was placed on the head of Bhai Mati Das. And as they were about to cut Bhai Mati Das into two, they asked Bhai Mati Das, "What's your final request?" And Bhai Mati Das Ji said two things. One, I always need to face my Guru. I'll never turn my back away from my Guru. And imagine being in the Sammukh of Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj and accepting Shahidi. There is no greater thing. What pain did Bhai Mati Das Ji feel when Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj was giving his kirpa, was giving his glance of grace, was giving good prasad? The second thing, Bhai Mati Das Ji said, "I'm going to start reciting Shri Japji Sahib. So I want you, as you put that sword on my head, to cut it as slow as you can." And in this way, Bhai Mati Das Ji started with Ek Onkar Satguru Prasad. And the sword began to go, began to cut, and blood began to flow, and blood began to trickle down. Imagine the pain someone feels when they cut themselves. To be sawn in two. I know the pain because I've worked in A&E and I've seen very horrible injuries and people cry out in pain. Grown men cry out in pain over such small injuries as well. They start asking for morphine, give me this pain relief, give me that pain relief. And you look at Bhai Mati Das Ji, who was reciting Shri Japji Sahib as the saw cut through. Eventually the sword cut through Bhai Mati Das. There were two halves, and yet Shri Japji Sahib was still going on. And only till Shri Japji Sahib had been completed did Bhai Mati Das Ji place his head at the feet of Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj to live there forever. Only then. In this way, they went to Bhai Sati Das, Bhai Mati Das Ji's brother, and they said, "You've seen the Shahidi of your brother. We've killed him in the most inhumane way." The blood of Bhai Mati Das Ji was still on the floor. That sand, which is once brown, was red. And they said, "We've killed him." And Bhai Sati Das Ji started smiling. He said, "What do you mean you killed him? Bhai Mati Das Ji isn't dead. Bhai Mati Das Ji is Amar. Bhai Mati Das Ji is immortal. Bhai Mati Das Ji lives forever in the hearts and the souls of the Sikh Panth, of the Khalsa Panth, in the history books. Bhai Mati Das Ji has taken his place at the feet of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj." And the jailers, the Qazis, the Maulvis who heard this were shocked. How can someone be so fearless? How can someone, having seen this brutal torture, say that? And they offered Bhai Sati Das the same thing. And again he said, "No, I want what my brother had. I want to die for my Guru. I want to die for righteousness." And in this way, Bhai Sati Das Ji was wrapped in cotton wool. Oil was poured on the body of Bhai Sati Das Ji. Again, as he faced Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj, and he was burnt alive. Think about that smell of flesh that's being burnt. And think about the people that are doing this to these Gurmukhs, to these Brahmgyanis. Think about how inhumane they were. And these Gursikhs, all they were reciting was Gur Mantra, Mool Mantra, Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. And Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj, who loved these Sikhs so much, smiled because he was happy. Because why was he happy? Because his Sikhs had passed the test. And remember, we face similar tests. Maybe no one is going to hold a sword to our head. Maybe someone's not going to wrap us up in cotton wool. But we face obstacles in our life all the time. Guru Sahib tests us all the time. And Guru Sahib is there all the time, willing you to succeed, willing you to pass the test. And majority of the time, sometimes we start writing vidawas to our Guru. The final Sikh was Bhai Dyal Ji. Bhai Dyal Ji, as I said, who's been written in history books as Guru Daput from the writing of Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj. Again, they asked the same thing. And what was Bhai Dyal Ji's response? Raj Nachar, Mukt Nachar, Manpreet Karan Kamlari. What else do I want? I don't want a kingdom. I don't even want mukti. I don't even want liberation. I just want the Charan Kamal of my Guru. I want the love of my Guru. This was the mentality of those Guru Sikhs. This was the mentality of Bhai Dyal Ji, who again, in the most inhumane way, offered the choice. He recited that. He was put in the pot. The pot was covered and rocks were placed on top of it. And there was silence. Because no one had seen such a Shahidi like this. These three Shahidis were completely unique. And then, out of the silence, a voice was heard. The Maulvis and the Qazis began to hear a voice coming from the pot. And they thought, Bhai Dyal Ji must be screaming in pain. He must be begging for mercy. He must be wishing that he was a Muslim, that he wants to convert now. So they went to the pot. They removed the lid. They looked into the pot to see where Bhai Dyal Ji was. And when they opened it, they didn't hear anyone screaming in pain. They didn't hear anyone crying out for Islam. They didn't hear anyone trying to denounce the Guru. All they heard was Satguru Shri Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj's Sukhmani Sahib. Because remember, Bhai Dyal Ji sat in that pot for over 12 hours. He was put in there in the morning, and only in the evening, after his very flesh had come off his body, did they take the pot off. And again, another Sikh took his place at the feet of Satguru Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj. Now there's another point I want to make quickly regarding the Shahidi of these three Gursikhs. These three Gursikhs who had come into Sikhi long before Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji. The families were Sikhs during the times of Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj, the times of Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji Maharaj. And yet, we have radical groups this day putting posters up like this, saying, by Mati Das Sharma, saying that these were Hindus dying for their faith. There is nothing further from the truth. These were Gursikhs who only lived, who only breathed for one person, for one reason. The love of all humanity and the feet of Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj. And we need to keep that in mind, because otherwise we're going to lose our link with our history. We already spoke how to destroy a nation. One of the ways of destroying the nation is breaking their link with their histori. And I know the Shahidi Pur, the stories of Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji, of Bhai Mati Das, of Bhai Sati Das, of Bhai Dyal Ji have probably been repeated again and again. But it's important that we take it and we burn it in our hearts, we burn it in our minds. We know exactly what they did and why they did it. Now, many people, it's too far to imagine what happened 337 years ago. We talk about Bhai Mati Das being sworn in two. We talk about Bhai Sati Das being burnt alive. We talk about Bhai Dyal Ji being boiled alive. This is a picture of an amazing Gursikh who was only 26 years old, Bhai Gurdev Singh, who did seva, a huge seva for the Panth, and was part of a Jathabandi known as the Khalistan Commando Force, who was one of the original founders, along with Bhai Mandir Singh, Bhai Hardev Singh, Bhai Sukha Singh. He was one of the founders. And he was very, very close to Shriman Sant Gyani Baba Jarnail Singh. And he did a lot of seva for the Panth. And unfortunately, for every Mahapurush, for every hero, for every Brahmgyani, for every Gursikh that is born, there are tons of traitors. And in this way, Bhai Gurdev Singh Ji went to someone's house who he thought was a friend, who he thought was someone who understood the philosophy of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, who gave him sleeping tablets. And he woke up in a jail cell. And Bhai Gurdev Singh Ji wasn't scared, he didn't get angry, he started smiling when he was in the jail cell. He started smiling because he recognized his moment of Shahidi was about to come. Right. That he was about to place his head at the feet of Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji, at the feet of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. He was going to die in the battlefield. And because he was such a high-ranking Singh, they tried all sorts of torture methods to get the information out of him. They tried everything to break his spirit. They pulled his nails out, they put hot iron rods into him. They pulled out one of his eyes. And eventually, the only answers that were coming from him was, my father is Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, my mother is Mata Sahib Kaur, I'm from Anandpur Sahib. That's it. The only information other than Guru Mantir, Mool Mantir, Shri Sukhmani Sahib, Shri Japji Sahib. And eventually, what they did with Bhai Gurdev Singh is they got a tub of boiling water and they put his body in that. And he attained Shahidi in exactly the same way as Bhai Dyal Ji. Make no mistake, there is no difference between the Shahidi of Bhai Gurdev Singh and the Shahidi of Bhai Dyal Ji. These Gursikhs will keep coming, will keep giving the Qurbani like this for the truth, for the righteousness. That picture on the left is a picture of the Shahidi Sarup of Bhai Gurdev Singh. Going back to Chandni Chowk in Delhi in 1675, around this time in November, finally the executioners come to Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji Maharaj and they say, we've killed your three Gursikhs. We've tortured them in such inhumane ways. They've all yielded. Will you become Muslim now? And what did Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji say? Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji started smiling. He said, I want what my Sikhs wanted. If my Sikhs didn't falter, how on earth am I going to falter? And in this way, Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj was beheaded. And when he was beheaded, the clouds themselves turned very dark. The earth itself shook. History, the chronicles record that it was so dark that you couldn't even see your hand. You couldn't even see anyone in front of you. There was nothing, complete darkness. People thought the very world was going to end. They began to pray. They began to scatter all over the place. Such was the effect. And what happened? Bhai Jetaji took Guru Sahib's cease and went to Anandpur Sahib. Bhai Lakhi Shah took Guru Sahib's body and took it to his house. And the Mughals began to wonder, because they wanted to parade Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's sareer. They wanted to take it and put it on the gates of Delhi and say, look, this is what we've done. And they were furious when they found out what had happened. So what did they do? They began to knock on the doors of every single Sikh in Delhi that they knew of. And they said, you are Sikhs of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. Who's taken his body? Who's taken his cease? And these Sikhs turned around to the Mughal Sarkar and said, we don't believe in Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. We're not Sikhs of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. You believe that? Our Guru had given the Shahidi, and these Sikhs were denying Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. They were denying they were his Sikhs. But look at Bhai Lakhi Shah, who took Guru Sahib's body. Who, if you go to Rakabganj in Delhi, you'll see the place. Who set his whole house on fire with every single one of his belongings just to keep the Satkar of Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. He burnt everything, all his house, all his belongings, without a single thought. Now, what was the effect of the Shahidi of Satguru Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj? When Aurangzeb the next day went to pray at this mosque in Delhi, the Jamuna Masjid, what happened? A Sikh who saw Aurangzeb attacked him with 2 stones. He threw them at Aurangzeb. He was ready to kill Aurangzeb. But Aurangzeb had a huge entourage. And this way, this Sikh attained Shahidi. Again, the next day, Aurangzeb was walking in Chandani Chowk. What happened? Another Gursikh pulled out a stick, attacked him, beat up his bodyguards, was there to kill him. Again, this Sikh would attain Shahidi. For the 3rd time in less than a month, another Sikh attacked with a talwar this time, with a kirpan. Again, he was unsuccessful. But Aurangzeb realized that Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji had caused a revolution. Things had changed. The common person today was taking a stand, was ready to fight. Now, this concept of attaining Shahadat, to create such bad karams for the enemy, to take the message of pain to the Dargah of Kalpurk, is something that's been repeated again and again. Baba Guru Baksh Singh Ji, the second Jathadar of Satguru Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj's Damdami Taksal, did exactly the same thing at Sachkhand Shri Harmandir Sahib. When 30 Gursikhs fought against 30,000, a Brahm Gyani attained. A Brahm Gyani gave Shahidi just so that message could be taken, just so these bad karams could ensure that Akal Purkh himself acted. There's a very interesting article written by Bhai Sahib Bhai Randeep Singh Ji, one of the Puran Brahm Gyanis of the Panth. And he writes in his book, again, this is the concept I'm going about, the effect of a Brahm Gyani, the effect of a Gursikh being tortured, being harmed. He says that in World War I, the British Empire was meant to be completely finished. Why was it meant to be completely finished? Because they had people like Bhai Sahib and Deer Singh ji in jail. They tortured people like Bhai Sahib and Deer Singh. They tortured other Gursikhs which were in jail with Bhai Sahib. Their karma was so poor that they were meant to be completely finished. But on the other hand, what saved them, what allowed them to win the war, what allowed them to come victorious was because, this is in the words of Bhai Sahib and Deer Singh, they were Gursikhs like this, Sants like this, Sant Mahagar Singh, who fought in France. Baba Harcharan Singh, again another Brahmgyani. It was only through their Naam Kamai that the British were able to win World War I. Make no mistake. And when we think about this, when we look at the writings of Bhai Sahib and Deer Singh, we'll begin to realize that the whole world is held in place through the Naam Kamai of Gursikhs, the Naam Kamai, the Bhakti of those Bhagats who are in love with the Kalpur. This whole world will be destroyed in a second without that. So, what is the power of this? Why is it so important? There's a very interesting story from the time of Sant Gyani Baba Jarnail Singh Ji. Two reporters came to Darbar Sahib, and they came and they approached Sant Ji and they said, Sant Ji, we've heard that you have a bomb factory in Darbar Sahib. And Sant Jarnail Singh Ji looked across and he said, yes, it's true, we have a bomb factory over here, we're making weapons over here. And the Sadh Sangat were shocked, because they'd only seen one or two pistols, one or few old rifles, they'd never seen anything else. They said, what bomb factory is Sant Ji talking about? And the two reporters, when they heard Sant Ji said, yes, we have a bomb factory, they got very excited, because they said, we're going to report to the whole world that Sikhs had made Harmandir Sahib into a bomb factory.
Right.
And they told Sant Ji, will you show us? And Sant Ji smiled and said, of course I'll show you. And everyone got very excited. They thought, Chalo, we're going to see what sort of weapons Sant Ji has over here. And Sant Jarnail Singh Ji stood up, very much like in this photo, looked across at the Sadh Sangat, and he said, these are the bombs that we're making at Sachkhand Sharif Harmandir Sahib. These Gursikhs that we're filling with philosophy, with theology, with Naam Simran, with Seva, with Simran, these are the bombs. These are the greatest weapons that anyone can have. There's no guns, no weapons, no bombs that can affect anyone. If you want to cut through someone, if you want to cut through their heart, Naam Simran, Guru Mantra, Mool Mantra, these are the true weapons. These are the weapons that Bhai Mati Das Ji, Bhai Sati Das Ji, Bhai Dyal Ji, Guru Tegh Bahadar Ji used. And within only a couple of years, the Mughal Sarkar was finished. An empire that controlled the whole of India and beyond was finished. This is the effect of Naam Simran, of Naam Kamai. Just going to finish off with one simple thing. I know I've run over and I really apologize to you. I just want to say one more thing about Naam Simran and Naam Bhakti and the effect it has and the price of it. Bhagat Naam Dev Ji, whose Bani comes in Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. One time, a king came to him and said, you're a saint. You've done so much Bhakti, you've done so much Simran. I want to reward you, I want to give you some money, I want to give you some worldly things. And Bhagat Naam Dev Ji recognized this king had a lot of homage, he had a lot of ego. And Bhagat Naam Dev Ji said, yes, okay. If you want to give me something, I'm going to write something on a piece of twig, a twig, which is like a little branch. I'm going to write something on this, and I want you to put on your scale, and however much this weighs, how much the scales come equal, I want you to give me that much money. So Bhagat Naam Dev Ji wrote R.A. on the twig, which is half of the name of Ram on the twig, one of the names of Akal Purkh. We all know Guru Mantra is Vaheguru, but one of the names. And the king started laughing, because how much does a twig weigh? It's only 1 or 2 pence probably would equal it. So the king got his most smallest scale and said, Chalo, here's some coins. But the twig was firmly put at the bottom. The scales were so unequal. So the king said to his treasurer, bring more scales, bring more money. And in this way, they brought more money, they brought more scales. They emptied the whole kingdom of all the wealth, and yet the twig was firmly on the floor. The money was up in the air. And then Bhagat Naam Dev Ji told the king, put all the good deeds you've done on the scale as well. You can transfer them. And he did this, and the scale remained high in the air. Finally, the king's ego was broken and he realized, you can't put a price on the name of Akal Purkh. Saying Waheguru one time, you can never put a price on that. With a humble heart, with a pure heart, you can never put a price on that. In the same way, this is the importance of Guru Mantra. This is the importance of Naam Simran. This is the value. All the worldly wealth means nothing compared to this. I think we're going to finish over there. I'd just like to ask you forgiveness for going on a bit. But I hope we realize the Shahidi of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, what a monumental event that was. What a huge sacrifice it was. And it's very, very important that we take away from it, because we hear these stories again and again and again and again every year. And sometimes it goes through one ear and comes out the other. And that's not good enough. We are sons of that Guru. We need to share this message with everyone in the world. But more importantly, we need to learn the lessons from it. We need to start building our jivans. We need to start working on our Naam Simran, on that seva. There's no way we can give any qurbani without that. So when we do our Daas before our Guru, let's pray that we become Sikhs of our Guru in thought, word, action, deed, everything. Again, I'm just your younger brother. Please forgive me for any mistakes I've made. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki
Bole So Nihal.